Counting the.
cost of working as a media production coordinator.
Wow. So can you tell me what that is about?
All right. Well, if you're, in case your viewers aren't aware, other than what I just said, I'm currently working as a media production coordinator at Washington Hills College and Academy in Arkansas. In college, I studied media and then worked for about 10 years in the field. Then, when I was in South Korea, the opportunity opened up and I began to work at Washington Hills College. So I saw the potential of sharing my skills with young people who could get the Advent message out to the world. So I jumped at the chance.
Okay. So you did study uh, media production, and then you had uh, obtained experiences in Korea for about a decade, and the opportunity came. Did the opportunity come previously, or was this your first time coming?
The opportunity, please restate the question. What do you mean?
So the opportunity to work for the, I mean, it was your self-supporting work, right? Previously.
Previously, I did work as doing self-supporting work at Wildwood Lifestyle Center and Hospital, and also at Wildwood College of Health Evangelism.
Okay.
I
Also,
worked in their marketing department.
also you have already done this before.
Something similar.
I see. I thought I thought you've been doing your YouTube channel or something all along, and then I thought you got recruited or something.
Well, before I worked in South Korea, I had worked previously in doing as a well, I did video editing, basically post production, over in Loma Linda at the church over there.
I see. So, have you been always interested since you were a child in media?
Have I ever been was I always interested in media?
Uh huh.
Mm, I was not always interested in media, but the interest came after I had, let me say, after I had gotten a hold of my dad's camera. He let me take some family videos, and I would be the one running around getting all the family memories.
Uh,
Then there was a time when well, what can I say? I spent a lot of time watching television as a kid, honestly. And, well, when I look back on that time now, from this point, I see that, well, I had a lot of time I could have spent better doing other things. I
so,
would have loved to do more reading.
so was it your dad that told you to get involved with the I mean, recording your family memories, or was it you that volunteered?
I volunteered. I had a knack for computers and technology. So the computer thing, the interest in computers, which of course in media you're working with computers and cameras and print and web and social media and so on. Well, I started out with my dad's computer once again, um, the IBM something something some years ago, and I started out reading the manual all the way through. He wouldn't let me touch it otherwise, so I had to read that thing and memorize it. And he tested me on it. And when he was certain that I knew how to use an IBM PC, he gave me the free reign of the computer and began to start like a little printing business with the printer we had there. And then we got a modem. I was able to connect in and connect to all sorts of different interesting places. And my world has expanded. And we trade programs back and forth between friends back when it was still okay. And all kinds of interesting things. I learned how to. Eventually, he gave the computer to me, so I would take it apart and add new parts and take out other parts. And I was, you know, back when hacking was actually a good thing. Yeah, we'd swap out things and make it kind of soup up a computer in the same way you soup up a car these days. So like a little hot rod. So
Wow. So whatever you have mentioned, how many years did it take for you to start as a child and then to get involved with all that stuff?
well, I was around 12 then when I started with computers. So yeah, it's been a while.
And then when you were swapping out different things and doing the good hacking things, is that when you were in your 20s or in your teens?
That's most of my teens. Most of my teens.
Most of your
When
teens.
I was in my 20s and into college, I still had a computer. I upgraded it, and I can still remember putting a screwdriver in one of my computers, thinking, should I unplug it first? Nah, I'll just leave it on. It was my first 286. That dates me. And put the screwdriver in, and it scratched the motherboard and shut down in an instant, in a flash of, and it went down in a blaze of glory, you could say.
Wow.
Um, just like, boom. So then I had to trash that one and buy another one. I was on a roll, and I
Wow.
learned from that. I
Mm.
also ended up working at a hospital in their information systems. So I was kind of like their IT guy
Oh,
for
really?
a while. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's just old experience. Um, Learned a lot about computers back in the old days when computers were still a thing. You know, these days they're into rocket ships now, but back then it was called computers. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay. So right now the
hmm
desktops are not as popular.
The best one?
Desktops are not as popular these days.
Tops?
Desktops.
Oh, yeah. Well, desktops are still a thing. You know, I mean, I've got my desktop right here, and desktops I think are going to be around for a while. For There are still people out there that like to build their own computers. They like to soup them up to the point where they've got these cases that are ever expanding. Even though
Uh-huh.
parts inside are shrinking, they keep adding more stuff inside. So,
Uh-huh.
you know, tweaking it to the point where it is literally a beast.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, with all the flashing lights
Uh-huh.
and fans and
Yeah.
cooling systems. Yeah. So those kind of gaming computers
Yeah.
that we build back in the old day,
Uh-huh.
those are the same type of computers that I would use for video editing.
Yeah.
And no, I don't play games on my computer, even though I have three screens here. You can't see one of them.
Uh-huh.
But it's not for gaming. It's for video editing and
Oh, I see.
for some 3D stuff and for all kinds of art. And when I do graphics, I
Uh-huh.
need a pretty fast card to do that.
Mm. So pretty much you got started with your dad allowing you to or encouraging you to study the whole manual and then you were able to have free reign over his computer
Yeah.
or his camera or whatever. And then you were helping him with the home businesses of doing different things, and then you also worked for the hospital and the Wildwood as a media guy, and then you had your own private ministry, and then you jumped into the Watch the Hill, the production job.
Well, there are some gaps in there, and I would recommend for people who are looking to expand their horizons, to round out their education and their field of experience, to take a sabbatical, so to speak, and do something different. Try out, for the person who's busy studying all the time, go canvassing or something. Go door to door and do sales. Um, for the person who is, learning to be a pastor, go take some time out and learn farming or something. Learn how to take care of the land.
Yeah.
Take care of some sheep. So what I learned also was after getting my degree in college in digital media, I went to South Korea to teach English and learned something about people rather than just technology. One thing I learned was that people are a lot more important than technology. I mean, most people would say, well, yeah, but for a person whose mind is geared for computers and technology and equipment and things like that, it's quite the revelation to take some time out and learn about the computers that God had made, the people that He put on this planet to um, to what can I say, compute, uh, contemplate the grandeur of God, and to have revelations of His glory, and to give me the opportunity to share that with people is is more than I can express. It gives me so much joy to be able to have been able to have that opportunity to go out there and not only teach English, but to teach religion classes, to teach about the Bible, to share my character with them, to share my experiences with them, to share time and food with them, to go the places they go, and teach them through many different means. That's what God means to me, and some of them have caught on, and some of them have come to the Lord as a result. So that's a blessing.
Well, that's interesting. I imagine a computer guy that is just interested in devices and different things, and that can be antisocial, that can be so oblivious to anything other than just just machines and different things like that, inanimate objects. But you said it's better to be exposed to different experiences, such as teaching, as you get to know people, because as you said, people are more important than technologies, and that's very interesting that you say that. So, who do you look up to as a computer person or a camera person?
Well, there are many people that I admire for their wisdom, their ability, their forward thinking. Um, there's nobody I look up to more than Jesus Christ, actually. Um, yeah, actually, I also look up to, when I think about it, I look up to my dad a lot. He was a powerful influence in my life. And what can I say? Um, there was one time, especially when he, well, I had a lot of interests in my life, and one of them was airplanes. I thought to get my feet off the ground and fly. Now, I don't want anybody out there to say, "Well, let's try to fund a plane for him so that he can fly." That's no, that's not where I'm going. Thank you. Good thought, though. Um, I was a little kid, small enough to have one of those tricycle big wheels, where you ride around and you pedal with your feet. I don't know if you ever seen one of these. Yeah, you seen a big wheel. And I was that young. I could read, but and it's important. When I was that young, I was in my front yard watching the airplanes go into the. We lived in the landing corridor, the approach corridor for an Air Force base, not too far from our house. Wow, I'd love to see those jets fly by. And I thought, wow, this is great. Helicopters, jets, C-141s, military, everything. Wow. And I thought, I'm going to build a plane. I'm going to go in the backyard right now, and I'm going to build a plane. And I thought it through because, I know they have engines, and they have, no, maybe not an airplane, maybe a helicopter, because I want to be able to take off vertically from home. So I thought, okay, I need some wood. I got some 2x4s from the garage, and put one this way, put one that way. Got the lawnmower, put it on the top of the lawnmower, and I got a chair because I need something to sit on, so I put that there. And I thought, now I need something to tie it all together. And so I went and asked my dad. I'm like, wait, this is an electric lawnmower. I need a gas lawnmower. So I went to ask my dad, Dad, can I use the gas lawnmower? Do you still need it? Can I use it? He's like, why? Well, I'm building a helicopter out in the backyard. Pig wheels, right? So he's like, well, he put down whatever he was doing. He's like, I'd like to see this. I'd like to see your progress. And he went up back, and when he saw what I was trying to do,
Wow.
well, um, big people don't laugh at you. Yeah, when you
So,
come up with crazy ideas, big people don't laugh at you. They look, they think, and they say, hmm. My dad was one of those people. Yeah. So you look at him and, I can see that you put some thought into this. So here's what I'm going to have you do. I have a book I'd like you to read. When you read it, then we can talk. So, okay. What's the book? Gave me a book this thick on aerodynamics.
how old are you? How old are you?
I didn't make it through the whole book. I got to the place where I was like, oh, what was I thinking?
Wow. Your dad is very,
But
very, very practical.
yeah, it was very practical. The good part is I went to college, and God knows my needs and my wants, right? So he went ahead and fixed it so that there would be a free class on flight training. And before I got my own first car, I was able to fly an airplane, and with myself with my own hands. I had 2 free hours of aircraft flight, so that was a blessing lesson. And I was able to fly over the Golden Gate Bridge, and oh, that was a day I'll never forget.
So does that mean if you have a private something that you can fly on, you can control?
Don't have a license, but and I once had I once had a drone, once had a model airplane. My dad also went and bought a balsa glider that we put together. Didn't quite finish putting it together before life happens, and it just sat in the fridge for a while. So
So the reason why you admire that the most is other than Jesus Christ is because he didn't really destroy your little dream or vision that you had. He rather encouraged you to be equipped by reading a book about aerodynamics, and you realize it was difficult. So instead of discouraging you, he encouraged you to actually figure it out. So who do you think you has impacted so far as a media person?
well, that's a good question. I don't want to leave the last question too quickly.
Sure.
I just want to add on to what you said, because
Yeah. Go ahead.
my when I look at my dad, I see God. Now, I'm not saying my dad is God, please don't get me wrong. But when you're a little kid like that, you look up to big people and you're like, wow, this is how what God must be like. And I get it. A lot of people, their dads aren't doing that, so they look up to their dads and they're like, oh, if God's like this, I don't want to be part of that. But my dad is the kind where when I look up to him, I'm seeing my dad is like, you want to do that? Read the book. You want to do that? Read the book. You want whatever you want? There's a book for it. And he always guided me to education, and he also guided me to study and to really know what it is I'm doing. And I didn't catch it as early as I could have, but I can see that God is like that. You want to get to heaven? Read the book. Yeah. So I see that God is that kind of person.
Mm. So you don't believe a life
No,
where random arbitrary judgment happens. You believe in a world where things happen through the due, legitimate, merciful, and amazing kind process that you don't want to complain about what's going on in your life.
yeah, yeah. So you asked whose life have I touched?
Yeah.
Mm, okay, so I'm guessing you're meaning since I became a media director.
Yeah. Yeah. Through getting involved with media, whether in Wildwood or when you're working for the hospital, helping them with computer stuff or getting involved with their dad's home businesses and doing different ministries for your YouTube channel and through your job that you're currently involved in. who do you remember touching in a way that is transformative or is, I don't know, inspirational,
Well,
inspiring?
I can't really, from my perspective, I can't really see that I've actually touched anybody because the nature of media is such that you're broadcasting, you're scattering seeds, I don't
Yeah.
know if you ever seen those seed things where you
Yeah.
put the seeds in and you wheel it like this and it just sprays.
Uh-huh.
So, um, yeah, it's a little like that. You're casting your bread on the waters, and in time it comes back to you, but you don't know where it's going to come from.
Mm.
So uh, when when we do these videos, every once in a while we'll get somebody who leaves a comment on YouTube and says, "Wow, that was really great. Thank you for touching our lives." Um, it's easier these days to get comments back, and I don't necessarily take that to heart and go, "Ah, yes, they're thanking me for me sending the video out." I'm thinking, well, they're commenting to the person who did the production or the person who did the speech, the speaker or the pastor or the whomever. Well, I was filming, but I don't consider it. I don't take it like they're glorifying me. I say they're glorifying God. They're glorifying the pastor, and that's why I look at it. And my name doesn't really usually go on most of the videos that I do for my life. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see. So I guess you may not get immediate feedback on whatever you're doing, but you said you believe you're planting seeds that are going to sprout up into good fruits, good influences. So let me rephrase the question then. Have you noticed that you yourself has grown into a certain level of maturity over the course of time as you're doing this more and more?
Well, yeah. I would say so. Um, it's I think one thing that kind of helped with that maturity, with growing, was to to have just had so many different experiences in life. Um, Not necessarily media related. Teaching English, seeing how people's lives were changed. While I was in Korea, South Korea, a lot of things happened in my life. Like, my brother got in a car accident and I was in a coma for a while. So, you know, that was a life event. My mother passed away while I was in Korea. That was another interesting life event. My niece went to college, was about to graduate. When I first went to Korea, she was a baby. I was like, how long have I been gone? Yeah, life events, things happened, and you know, teaching and getting married and let's see, meeting extraordinary people, having the opportunity to meet people who life changers, influencers, and I meeting people and also having them remember your name later. That's interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to, not like here's my card, remember me, but realizing that they're an influencer, and I never thought of myself as an influencer, even though I am. But I meet them, and I'm thinking, wow, I just think the world of them. And sometime later, they come by and they say, hey, Handel, how are you? Like, you remember my name? You remember my name? Wow, that's amazing. I feel like an ordinary guy. You remember me, and that blows my mind. Things like that. And little things like, well, I guess not so little, but taking time to study the Word, study the Bible, and um, I had Bible study with some guys in Korea, and we were just they were non-denominational Christians, and it was a great time. We just hung out, and think it was I think it might have been a bar. I'm not sure, but I know they served alcohol. I wasn't drinking, but some of them were, and they all got together, and it was got Bible there, and some were a little tipsy, but hey, that's whatever floats your boat, I guess. We're reading the Bible, and it was a great time, and I didn't know if I was even effective though. I shared what I shared with them, and they shared their thoughts with me. We dug into the Word, and eventually, as we studied, they decided to change venues to a coffee shop. It was a little better, and the environment was more conducive to study. Um, and as we went through there, I thought to myself, I'm going to have to leave Korea soon. I wonder what's going to happen to these guys. Are they going to keep studying and growing closer to Christ? The one who had organized the meeting was growing more friendly to uh, our way of thinking, you could say, or the biblical way of thinking, I would say. And he was challenged by some of the thoughts that we were mining from the Word. I kind of lost contact with him once I got back here, and recently I was thinking, oh, whatever happened to him? And just as I was thinking that, I get a text message from him, and he was like, I've put a lot of thought into the things that you said. I went back to our old chat and I read through it, and I started investigating those things again, and I can't say that I believe everything that you believe, but I'm very close. And I thought, what? That's amazing. That's really amazing. And I'm not just trying to win the world the way I think, but I'd like to bring them to know Christ personally and to understand the three angels' message and where this world is headed and be prepared for it.
Wow, I love the progress here. So you said you have been pretty much absent in your ups and downs of your family experiences over the time when you were in Korea. While your brother got into an accident, your mom passed away, and you grew up pretty much from a little baby into university graduate by now, and then you met built meaningful relationships with different people, and you talked about how you interacted with this guy, and especially the word, the positive, the powerful word pretty much had very, very positive, meaningful impact on both you and him in a way that is life transforming. And now he's saying he's a different person in the way he is thinking. So if we can tap into your current media ministry, as much as family is powerful, as much as teaching English, touching people's lives, forming meaningful relationship where they remember your names, and having the word interact with you and with that person. And then how does media come into your life as you recount all those meaningful interactions that you had with people and with the world around you?
Can you rephrase the question? You said, how does media come into my life?
Mm-hmm. So how does media, the job as a media director, fit into the past meaningful experiences and encounters that you have had so far? So how do you feel that you're headed at this moment?
Well, I know we're talking about media, but I've got more than just media in my bag of tricks.
Okay. Okay.
Media is what kind of panchan?
Okay. Side dishes.
Side dish. Yeah. It's kind of a sideshow for me a little bit. I know you're just like everyone's just like, yes, he's the media. He's the media. He's the media guy. The media guy. Hey, come on over. No. Well, I mean, yeah, right now I'm the media guy. But I've also been an English teacher. I've been a student. I've been health worker, doing health stuff.
Oh,
So,
I forgot about that. Yeah. Health.
most people do. Wait, what do you mean massage? You mean like massaging the keys of the keyboard? Well, I also play piano. They're like, oh, she massaged it. No, actually, yeah, I do massage. I don't have a license yet, but may head that direction. But after going to Wildwood, the Lifestyle Center and Hospital College of Health Management, learned hydrotherapy and massage and a whole host of natural remedies and things like that, natural therapies. So then, after going to Korea for a while, I also learned more after I went to get that degree there. I'm not just trying to talk about my degrees or anything, but
Public health?
yeah, I learned more at Sun University. That was great. Um, so it kind of augmented my health understanding, and even if I don't get a job in it, it really does help my life. I go long stretches without getting sick, which is a great benefit for a person who has a sedentary job. So I like to go walking regularly, and I like to eat healthy food, and yeah, there's more to me than just computers.
Okay. Sounds fantastic.
So yeah, media is what I'm doing currently, but I don't see it as. I don't think I'll be 90 years old and being like, well, the camera used to have to crank the camera.
Oh, that's a very interesting approach. I thought we were gonna talk about just media, but you talked about health, you talked about relationships, you talked about literature, you talked about music and different things that really improve your quality of life and have different various diverse perspectives and
Mhm.
meanings on your life. So what makes you happy as a person?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm not gonna say media. What? Well, okay. Let's see. Off the cuff. Let's see. Uh, Seeing a greeting card in my mailbox with $1 million in it. Yeah, that would make me
Mm,
really happy.
okay.
Donate to the channel.
Okay. Donation.
No, no, no. That wouldn't be good. Actually, to be honest, somebody did show up at my door one day with an envelope, and they left it on our step. And we opened the door, and we're like, wow,
Oh, oh really?
that made me happy that day. But I realized, money doesn't really make me all that happy.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't. But what can I say makes me happy?
Hey, can you move this way a little bit? This way.
This way?
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Oh, you're gonna
You've been behind the logo.
behind the logo?
You have
What?
been. So this way is better.
Oh, I've been behind your logo. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
It's okay.
Spending time with the people you love the most. Um,
Good.
and yeah, yeah, that really makes me happy. Receiving love from the ones that you love the most. Um, let's see. Moving your tasks on your task list over to the completed file. That makes me
Mm.
happy.
Wow.
Um, let's see. I don't know. I like to find joy in even the simplest things. Um, yeah, I think anyone can find joy in simple things if you're really looking for it. And I think my positive attitude, for the most part, comes from knowing that God loves me and loves all mankind, and that He's got a home for us in heaven. Um, Pretty much all planned out for us. I mean, to me, that seems like, I don't know. What can I say? When I think that there's a God up in heaven who made a whole planet, and or as you could say, a pale blue dot floating in space. and came down to that dot, lived out his life on it, and decided not to just go back home and be like, thanks guys, thanks for the food, see you. He decided to go, wait, this is a messed up place. Let me do something to save the world. So he took everything apart to its most basic component and said, the real problem here is they have this disease that they can't even detect called sin. So I'm going to extract that from them by dying for them. And I don't know, this law of sin and death, which is like, oh, this is a long answer, I know. But like this law of sin and death, which is like, okay, the soul that sins shall die. That's been happening ever since we sinned, according to the Christian way of thinking. And the Bible, um, yeah, ever since the beginning. But sin sinned when it put an innocent person to death. So now sin is guilty of sin.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So sin is guilty of sin. So sin is now an outlaw and has to die.
Mm-hmm.
So he put sin to death.
Mm-hmm.
Sin's on not skid row. What do you call it? Death row.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And now we are all technically free to live a sinless life.
Okay.
And all we have to do is connect with Christ, which that was when I first heard the whole salvation thing put that way, it made so much sense to me. And yeah, so now I understand why Jesus had to come and die, because the law can't change, so he had to fulfill that law and come and live as a sinless person and make sin the outlaw, so that it doesn't have to reign supreme over us anymore. We're free to be free of sin. So I'm like, wow, praise the Lord. That makes me happy.
Wow.
That makes me really happy. So I have a shot at heaven.
So,
Woo.
wow, that's awesome. So, people that you love, people that you can't love, and a sense of accomplishment, gratitude, your positive attitude, an internal joy that is so constant and is so abiding that really secures your eternal existence and all these things, and also the first one, the donation, the money that you may encounter as things are supplied to you, I guess miraculously through those that love you. So this sounds like a lot of positive mental health, and that sounds awesome. So how do you deal with conflicts or stress that do arise, even though you are uh, thriving in your mental health and all these attitudes, but sometimes it does bother us. How do you deal with that?
How do I deal with stress?
Mm-hmm.
I got a pillow? No. No, no, no. Let's see. Well, they say that stress promotes cancer. It creates an environment that's, oops, there goes my mic, that's conducive to cancer. But I've actually learned not to stress so much. And the way that I do that, hmm, well, the way that I deal with it is basically I pray. I talk to God, talk to Jesus. He's my best friend and my mentor. He's got my best interest at heart, so I know that I can trust him, and I can talk to him pretty much any time. I know that he won't complain. I when I pray, I like to untie God's hands and his storehouse of miracles by claiming scriptural promises, um, verbally requesting his help from heaven, and requesting angels to help overcome specific sins that I might be dealing with at the time, requesting the Holy Spirit's power to be in my life, things like that. Um, yeah, and if that doesn't work immediately, I like to go for a prayer walk or something. That usually does a trick.
Wow,
How about you?
you're talking about a whole bunch of invisible, supposedly super powerful beings and influences that seem to be working just fine for you. And do you think it's gonna work even for someone that is not religious at all, that don't really believe in a personal divine being? Do you think it's gonna work even for those kind of people?
Oh yeah, yeah. Um, oh, sorry about my mic. You know what? I heard somebody ask one time if we had they walked into a room of Christians and they said, "Do you have an invisible friend?" We were like, "Please, no." The smart person was like, "Yes, I do." And the person who walked in was like, mm-hmm. "Who's your invisible friend?" And they said, "Jesus." All the other Christians looked over and were like, "Oh yeah, I've got an invisible friend." And I thought about that. They asked the same question to a room full of witches, and they're all like, "Yeah, of course, yeah." So, I mean, I think having an invisible friend is actually pretty cool. Someone you can talk to, you know.
Mm,
So, yeah, I think it'll work for just about anybody. I mean, why do people meditate?
yeah,
Just to empty the mind or to open it so something can fill it, you
yeah.
know?
Wow.
Yeah. So
This.
I like to meditate in prayer, and I like to open my Bible and read a few verses first, and meditate on the Scripture. And
Wow.
so when I do get into my meditative mood in my mind, I spend time going through the stories of the Bible and trying to put myself in the positions of those people who are in those stories and thinking, what would they be thinking? What would they be going through? What on earth kind of situation would this really be? And it becomes so real to me. I go, wow. And I start thinking of details that I would not normally have thought about that story. Like, I really had to go through it. That would have been a long time or a long trip or what? And I get my mind blown so many times just because I put myself in the mind and in the situation of those people in the Bible.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing your story of how you deal with conflict and stress, because I was expecting a media person that is sedentary, that is stressed, that is tired, that is exhausted, don't have time for mental well-being, but you're talking about how you're interacting with the historical text, you're interacting with the current text that is a living reality to you, that is almost like a person, that is such a genuine, authentic, a true individual that can really totally be talking to you, so you don't feel lonely. You can rely upon. You can trust. So you seem to be living a very meaningful life. What about the conflicts? How do you deal with it?
Conflicts. Conflicts, what conflicts?
social social conflict.
Social conflicts. I if I have social conflicts and if they're far in between these days, not because I'm a yes man, no, that's not why. I pray about it and then I go directly to the person. I don't try to do the rumor mill thing. I go to the person. If I heard somebody like, oh, so and so has a problem with you, okay, I go talk to that person and I go say, hi, let's work it out. Let's figure out what's going on, and we'll discuss it and find out maybe it's nothing. And that usually is the case. Um, yeah, I go to the person themselves and we talk it out. And if there's some reason, I very seldom, but if there's some reason where we just absolutely cannot get along, then yeah, we'll probably have to part ways.
Wow.
And I'm here and I'm cordial but distant.
Mm.
So,
Wow.
and if it's something that I did wrong, I apologize first.
Okay.
Yeah. And sometimes even if it's not my problem, I'll apologize first
Okay.
because you know um, think peace is better than, not in all cases. Sometimes you gotta really stand your ground.
Yeah.
But if the problem's worth resolving, if it's possible to resolve it, um, then resolve it and move
Wow.
on and get the work done or do whatever you have to do. Um,
Wow.
yeah.
That's a fantastic answer that most people don't even practice because when you look at TV or radio or social media, people go online and they blow up online to strangers and they get followers, they get comments, they get hits and likes and dislikes and hates and all these things and people get noisy
Yeah.
but they don't actually go to the person and actually resolve the issue but you talked about how it's very crucial to actually solve that issue in person and that sounds so beautiful. Wow, thank you, Handel. I gained so much wisdom from you. I thought you were going to talk about media the whole time, but you talked about wisdom. You talked about meaningful relationships. You talked about the beauty of life, and it really spoke volumes to me. Do you think I can do this sometime in the future again with you?
Well, we'll see. If my schedule opens up. I'd love to.
That's true.
That'd be
That's true.
great.
That's true.
I do like talking with you, Jay.
Sure, sure.
Blessing.
Probably not like all the time, but probably a few years later.
Yeah, get some really valuable experiences. Now, how do you deal with stress? Oh, I'm stressed.
Oh, thank you so much. I really did appreciate it. Not just to say cordially, but it was fantastic. It was a gem right there. Thank you so much for being calming, mature behind the camera instead of rotting behind the camera.
Yeah, thank you. Rotting? Wait.
Instead of rotting,
You say rotting behind the
because
camera?
because when I handle technology, I am not a technology person.
Oh,
I rot
rot.
because I get stressed. Well, you sound like somebody that is thriving, so I'm so thankful that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. It's a blessing. It really is a blessing. And these days, what can I say? I mean, God has been good to give me the technology that I need at work to be able to accomplish the things that we need to do. And I don't know if you guys have ever watched the Hills Live, shameless plug, on YouTube, but check it out and just see what we're doing because it is that's the school's public uh, way of reaching the world, and you can see. Well, we're not perfect at it, but we try the best we can with what we have, while we can. Yeah.
Thank you, Handel, for helping people with the
Those
technical.
watch toes and O.
Yep, I'll share the link at the description below. I'm so
Thank you.
thankful that you're helping people with the media.
Yeah. If
Thank
you
you.
like music, we also have the Watch the Hills College channel. You can check that out.
Okay. Oh, I'll post both of them if you can share that with me.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Handel.
Yeah,
I
you're
hope
welcome.
I hope you have a good evening, and I'll catch up with you later.
All right. God bless. Over now.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.